Hello, good morning, good evening, and good afternoon, and wherever you are in this wide, wonderful, beautiful world, you are very welcome today. And yeah, I'm very excited as always, but we finally got together and we finally looking at, and it's perfect time really, because let's set the scene. Is like we did our goal setting last year, we did everything else, we did our why and our purpose and everything behind that. And hopefully, and I'm saying hopefully, that everyone that is listening to this now did their goal setting last year and did their plans and whatever else. But we're on that funny time of the month where things start to fall out. Isn't that right, Mac? It doesn't really come into fruition. Like you set your goals, you set your intentions. This I know, is it during the week, which is that dodgy time of year where it's the darkest day of the year and everyone's depressed and all that. But I think that's just a marketing ploy myself. But
Well, they've just there's these. Depending on which research you look at, there's two different dates in January that they call like the Global Quitters Day. When it comes to giving up on our goals, whether that be dry January or doing quitting smoking or any maiden goal that you've given up, chocolate or whatever, and then the weakness is set in, and then all of a sudden it's just like okay, today I'm done.
I've had it. It's so very true, and that happens all the time with so many people. That's why gyms love this time of year, because they get all of these people paying ridiculous amounts of money
committed for the year.
And for the year, they pay it in advance, but you committed for the year. And all of a sudden, it just starts off with a high endorphin rush, and then it just gets less and less and less and less and less and less.
And it's weird that you mentioned gyms because, and if anybody who's watching has an answer to this, I'd love to know. But gyms is one of those where you sign up for the year because your intention is to go more than you did the previous year, or maybe twice in a week. But when it comes to canceling that gym membership, it's one of those things people hold on for life or death, because it's almost like I can not go to gym, that's okay. But if I cancel the gym membership, that's it. That's acknowledging that I've given up.
Failure. It's acknowledging you failed.
So the gym works with the turnover because it's great. Now they've, instead of got 100 people that have signed up, they've got 100 people that have signed up and only one person that shows up, and it really enjoys the courtesy of everybody else paying for that environment.
It's just madness. And it is that psychology behind everything that we do. Is if I paid for something and I don't go, I feel guilty. But then over a period of time, you lose, or the motivation is lost, because I always like to do the analogy of, gym is a good analogy to start with, because you're all motivated to do it. You have your best intentions behind that. But I don't think you really visualize where that goal might be and what you actually do want to achieve and what the actual end result might be. It's just so loose and airy-fairy and up in the sky, those cloud munching things that we get. But it's, what is it specifically that they want to do? And is that the goal for 3 months, 6 months to lose weight, to be conditioned? But the thing is, it's like a scattergun approach. And it's like, and then the first week is madness and you're doing it. And then you start to, that's when the pain starts to happen and you lose that motivation, because you've been doing 2 hours of the first session. And I'm aching. This must be what good for me, but it's not. I always like to say, how do you eat an elephant, Mac? And from South Africa, you should know that.
One bite at a time.
Absolutely. It is one bite at a time.
Yeah.
And it is how we do it. So, we got a big hello from the Netherlands.
Awesome stuff. And it's interesting how, for those watching, if you are joining lives and you want to participate or you want to comment, and you come up as LinkedIn user, that is typically your privacy settings on what the public are able to see. So, as an example, if you may be reaching out trying to grow your LinkedIn network and you're not understanding why people are just not hitting that accept button as often as they should, just have a look at your privacy and public profile settings and make sure that you've toggled a little button on for public so that you show up on streams and comments as well.
And that's from the LinkedIn expert. Oh, we got Luz. We got
it's Lowe's.
Lowe's.
So on Restream, it comes up as LinkedIn user Lowe's. So just go and check out your your settings there. Good to have you.
Excellent. That's always good to see. So we are talking about today the cost of neglecting accountability. And before Christmas, we got our heads together and we were thinking about what our process will be, because the why is why and the purpose and all that, and that's great. Now we're trying to bite size it down a little bit, and we're going to be coming up with something which we would love to share with you in a couple of weeks, which we're planning on doing, which will enforce everything that we are suggesting right now. And everything that we're going to do, there's something special, there's some magic that we've got together from our years of experience of doing this sort of stuff. And we like to feed it forward. But I'm going to leave it there.
just dangle it there.
Dangle the carrot there. Dangle the carrot. So let's have a look at accountability, because we are in that stage, that wobble stage right now of accountability and actions and what it actually means to be self-accountable. So Mac, for yourself, what does it mean to you? And like, we can talk in business or we can talk in sales, but one correlates with the other in terms of everything that we do, because we have to be self-accountable. We do both run our own businesses, but let's be empathetic to also other people listening in that do run their own businesses as well.
Well, I think there's clearly several different angles here. That self-accountability is one major, and that's a topic in itself.
Yeah.
And then there's accountability to others, and I think it's defining and figuring out where us as individuals thrive and perform best, because some of us, and this all depends on environment, our makeup, our personal experience, and each one of us have walked a different path. So for some of us, that personal accountability ranks extremely high in our own drive, as it were, and that means that we don't necessarily look for external validation or need to be accountable to external sources in order for us to achieve our goals. But that doesn't mean that works for everybody. Some of us, self-accountability is actually quite dangerous, because it's it's a place where we can potentially cop out, because the only person we're accountable to is ourselves. And because nobody knows what our goals are, as an example, other than ourselves, then it's easy to decide, well, okay, I'm going to quit, as an example, as we were talking about earlier, because there's nobody else that can hold us to account for that. And some of us, as I said, are very strong at holding ourselves accountable, but we've got to decide which one of those serves us best in the bigger scope of things. And it's okay to be that person that's works better if you're accountable. I'm one of those. I'm a much more accountable if I'm accountable to external sources, because I know somebody's going to check in and go, "Hey, Mac, how you doing with that goal?" Or especially like chocolate. Like I'm like so weak when it comes to self accountability. But if I know that other people are checking in, as an example, my daughters, there you go. Like this month, as an example, my goal was for January not to buy or have any snack food at home, because that's my weakness when it comes to sugar. You bring the biscuits out, you bring the chocolates out.
That's exactly what I just did. And earlier before that, I kept saying to myself, no crisps, or if you're in the US, it's chips. But I keep saying to myself, I'm not going to have any. And what do I do? It's go and eat them. Because
but that's what we've got to decide is where does the strength lay for us when it comes to the accountability? Does it lay internally with us, because that's just the nature of who we are and how we've been built, and our own self-discipline? Or is there a higher chance of success if we're accountable to others? So I'd love to know from people that are listening and watching, where do you find yourself? Are you one of those people that self accountability is vital, is the most the thing that drives you towards success, and you never let yourself down? Or is it being accountable to others who check in, if that helps you? What are your thoughts on that, Jason?
As you were saying that, it is, I think, depending on what you want to achieve specifically as a result of actually having that motivation towards that. Or are you motivated towards pain, or are you motivated towards pleasure? So how we look and view that is like, I just had that sugar thing today that I needed to eat. So I did go for a walk in the hurricane that we had here in Ireland earlier on. But it was just, number one, to get fresh air, but also just have a little walk and go, I need some crisps. And I didn't need them, but I automatically bought them. But I'm okay with that because I know I'm going to burn that off in tomorrow or later on. But it's how and what we need to do, and maybe it's the stories that we tell ourselves and what we do want to achieve. And because there is a way and means of pushing that all away, and I think it becomes in the language that we do use to ourselves and how we communicate to ourselves. So when we're motivated towards something or away from something, there's some sort of pain or pleasure that we're trying to get away from. But what is that specifically? What can we do linguistically in our language? Can we change the narrative of what we do want to achieve as a result of getting that? So part of what we do and our intentions and our motivations towards whatever we want to get to is all down to that, because we can, if we wanted to, not have that sugar or that whatever we're looking for. But it does depend on the pleasure pain part of it. It's also having that good cop, bad cop on our heads, like chatting to us in our heads and go, yes, Mac, you can eat that penguin bar today if you really wanted to. Or if I do eat that penguin bar, how am I going to feel afterwards? That sugar high, and then it's going, and then it's hitting your stomach.
Yeah, it's that consequence side of things. And but it's having that clear in your mind of what that looks like, because if you don't have clarity on that, that's where it gets a little bit patchy, if that makes sense. And the clearer you are on the vision side of things, the easier it is for the brain to be able to accommodate what you're going to do with that decision, whether you're going to make the better decision that you need to, or whether you're just going to crumble because you don't see it as a consequence big enough and important enough to stick to, as an example.
And we've just got down below from Tracy, accountability makes us credible for what we say and what we do. Being accountable accepts the responsibility and consequences of our actions. So what we're saying is eating the biscuit or eating the sugar, it's the dopamine hit or that we get from doing that, but the dopamine hit is only very short-lived. That we had it, we got the sugar in the mouth, and we got the sugar high for a bit, but the consequence is affecting our body on the long term because of we can really go negative here, because that's all part and parcel of what we're trying to push forward, is the negative consequences of actually having that. And the sugary hit isn't going to help you in your long-term goals of what you might want to achieve by doing that. So the more you start to do that, the worse it's going to project in your body and how you feel and how your sleeping patterns, and trying to put the negative consequences on that. Because the more we start to do that, like the crisps for me, the worse I'm going to start to feel. It's like having that Mac attack. I have that Mac attack, and then all of a sudden get the sugar high from all the rubbish that they feed into it, and then afterwards I feel terrible.
So I'm just thinking, because we are on, as an example, LinkedIn, and a lot of business owners listening in and things like that, because looking at the personal accountability very much translates into the business quite well.
Absolutely.
And the first thing I think about when I think accountability in business tends to, and looking at goals, is the journey for accountability. Because, as an example, when you look at a goal, and there's this bit of thinking that I like to kind of throw in the mix when it comes to goals, because, as an example, a lot of people only allow themselves to be happy once they've achieved a goal, which means you're going to be miserable a lot of the time. Whereas if you can learn to be happy with the process and the journey, then then you don't have that. And comment and drop in the comment if you've ever achieved a goal and it's all great and exciting, but then the next day you're kind of like deflated because you're like, now what? Okay, so I've done that, and it's waiting for that next high as opposed to enjoying the journey. So, as an example, yourself, Jason, where you do some silly runs in the hills that most people will be exhausted just looking at pictures, and but for yourself, when you go out and you do that, you're enjoying the journey. It's not, I'm going to run 25 miles or I'm going to run 50 miles, and you're only going to be happy once you complete it. You enjoy the whole process. You enjoy the scenery, you enjoy the exhilaration of the whole experience, as opposed to only looking at, oh well, I'm not, and say for argument's sake, you finish the race, 500 yards short. It doesn't matter. It's the fact that you've been out there and you've done the process. So in business, I tend to think of KPIs as an example.
Yep.
Talk to us about that and how the sugar highs and all these things relate to daily business processes, and how accountability there helps in especially a lot of people on LinkedIn are solopreneurs or small business owners, so they don't have a big team to be accountable to. Where does accountability come in? How can we be more accountable? And how can accountability help? There's lots. I've just thrown.
You're just throwing loads and loads of stuff out there.
So I'm just going to shut up really. Shut up now.
No, they're really good structured words, and I really like that. And again, people that actually are listening to what we're saying now, please throw what works for you, because it's all sharing and growing together. The analogy of running, and the stuff that I do. I like to try and exceed my goals, but it's hard work. It's not easy. I wish it was easy, and I wish my self dialogue during it would be always positive and productive, but it's not. And that goes with our KPIs. It's not easy to achieve what you want to set out. If it was easy, everyone would be doing it. So what we know from a lot of KPIs, most people don't achieve them. Most people don't do it because of maybe the hard struggle and work behind it in order for that to happen. So it goes through, the way I like to look at it is there's two strains here in our the way we view how our accountability and our self accountability works. So the first part of it is your intrinsic motivation. What is it? And these are questions that you can ask yourself. What motivates you to come to work every day or be at work? What is it specifically? And asking yourself these sort of questions. What type of work do you find most fulfilling within that? Because once you understand your intrinsic motivation, it's really sort of saying, well, what is my autonomy? How can I be autonomous? If you're working for yourself, you have to be autonomous because you're only communicating to yourself, so you have to be autonomous. And the only learning that you're ever going to get is from that. But if you're part of another larger crew of people, or you're in a team of people, is how can you be autonomous? Meaning, what do you need to do to learn to be kicking ass at your KPI? What do I need to do specifically to get 100% or 120%? How do I need to do that? Do I need to actually sit back and go, well, I'm not hitting enough people, meaning I'm not either speaking to enough people on the phone or LinkedIn or doing whatever in your methodology to actually get numbers and speak to enough people or engage with enough warm leads? How are you doing that? So are you autonomous? What do you do? Are you creative? Are you going out there and doing something slightly different? Because if you want to hit your KPIs and you're not hitting your KPIs, and this is your plan for the year to actually do that, what has to happen for that to happen, to actually do that? And I'm always curious about that, to how, and want to know what is it. So that when we speak about intrinsic, and we spoke last year about your purpose, but your intrinsic motivation is part and parcel of that. What is your purpose to being in that role? Why are you there? What are you doing? So Mac, I just wanted to bring you in this because we all have that internal intrinsic motivations to want to do something, but that all comes from within.
Yeah. Did I unmic? Yes, I did. So, it's an interesting one because when I look at KPIs, especially in organizations, what I typically find is that you can't treat it like a generic thing. You can't say everybody reacts in a certain way or treats KPIs in a certain way, even though the KPI is the kind of it's the bar, it's the standard measuring tool, as it were, for everybody. It's not what makes everybody achieve those KPIs. So, one of the things that I found is whether it be individual as a solopreneur or a business owner, or whether it be as a team member within a large organization, it's understanding what, and coming down to what we were discussing a lot last year about the why, and what, and you spoke about this earlier, the consequences side of things again, is when you're looking at that, being accountable is understanding, okay, so my KPI, whatever that is, and for those of you who don't know KPIs, I always assume everybody does, but it's key performance indicator, is, what is going to help you? Why are you going to achieve that KPI, or at least do your damnedest to get as close to it as possible? And it's one of the things that, I think will forever frustrate, especially salespeople around the world, because there's this annual conversation of they've changed the goalposts again. And why do they do that? Because it's there to stretch you. It's there to grow. And unfortunately, a lot of us are in the mindset, we think, okay, well, I've just got comfortable with that, and I'm just about to knock on the door of that target, and now they go and set it even bigger. But that's the same for individuals and small businesses as well. Is if you are okay with status quo, you won't grow. So you need to understand what your why is, what your reason behind it is. And to give you an example, I had a team of 32 people in one of my sales teams a few years ago, and not one of them had the same justification or reasoning as to why they needed to hit.
Yep.
The initial answer, because it was all money, that's the kind of, I want to make more money. Well, yeah, okay, but what is it that money's going to do for you?
Absolutely.
And once we got through that, I mean, I had one guy who was adamant of making sure that his child was the first person to go to university in their family, and he was working, hell bent on making sure that happens. But then I had somebody else who had been, he had a business where he had almost 1,000 people working for him, and he got made bankrupt. And literally, they came into his house. They even removed the skirting boards in his house. Like, everything was taken away. And he lost absolutely everything. And this is a guy who, had quite a bit of pride, had a lot of means. And all of a sudden, he was in a 1-bedroom apartment with a family of 4 and just wanting to get his head above water. So for him, his reasons were different, but he had the same target as somebody else.
Yep.
So it's, when we think about that accountability, is who am I being accountable to? Is it myself, which is okay?
Yeah.
Because if that drives you, then that's enough. Or is it, my children, or is it my team, or is it? But finding something or someone to be accountable to is a intrinsic part of the recipe for success, I believe.
Yeah. I think you absolutely hit the nail right on the head. And it is because everyone is different. And it just takes time to really find out, because money is just something. Like, you want to hit your targets because you want to get commission and you want to make more money. Great. But that's partial of that motivator. It's the thing behind that. What will that money do for you? Is it a holiday? Is it the family? You want to make sure that the family are well looked after, that they're going to private education, or is it the new house or the new car that you're saving for? What is it specifically that you do want to have in order to you to get up off your backside, excuse my French, but actually to get to where you want to go? And that's always the challenge in a lot of organizations, because they get this job, they get this lovely luxury basic salary, which is great. And I've seen it in a lot of teams, like big corporates, but they really haven't found out what they need to do in order for you to be more accountable or self-accountable, or work towards something that will make them, tomorrow I'm going to get up and I'll make 50 phone calls, because out of those 15 phone calls, 10%, 20% of those will convert into hopefully a meeting and maybe long-term a sale, and so on and so forth. So if you add that up into your head, what do you need to do to get the lifestyle that you do want, as opposed to just that money? And it is the thing beyond that. So many people I speak to go, yeah, why are you in this business? What are you doing it? Every business is the same, is to make money, but also, is it growth that they want as a business? Is it to inspire others? For me, it's success. I get a massive rush to when other people I've found their own success. For that's a big motivator for me. That really helps me get up and work harder than I did before, because that's what I want to do. What is it for you, Matt? Because I'm curious about that.
So for me, it's very similar. It's that light bulb moment when I see I've made an impact and been able to make a difference in somebody else's life.
Yeah.
And that's why I love what I do, because I work with so many different people from different worlds. But when you see, when somebody has that drive and they have that goal, but you are intrinsic or play a part in being able to help them achieve that. I'm involved with quite a few different charity organizations, as an example. And for me, knowing that we've made a difference to yet another person, it's that starfish mentality. We've made a difference to this one. But then individually for businesses as well, when I see somebody go, I can do that and I can have what I need or what I want. So I now have a recipe, or I have a strategy that, that can help me towards that. It's, like having the best mobile phone in the world, but you don't know how to turn it on. Giving people that little moment where it's like, by the way, just that button over there. And for me, that is seeing that joy, when they have that light bulb moment, and it's like, I was involved in that.
It's you're part of the cog in the wheel of their success. Like, they have to do the work. There's no shadow of a doubt. Like, the way I look at it, I could train all day, I can coach all day, but if they're not practicing and they're not doing it, it's the Gary Player thing that I always like to say is, the more I practice, the luckier I get. And it is so very true. That it's and again, it comes with the January things. I'm all motivated to do stuff, and then I just like get demotivated because things are not always working. But it's that reaction to get back into, what is the goal? What is the thing that I'm looking to achieve beyond the purpose, but also getting on beyond, going, well, how and what do I need to do to achieve getting my kids to university, or to get my my kids through my kids my daughter's 15 and a bit, so we want to make sure that this year and next year that she is hitting success for herself and working hard, but we have to pay for her college, school and all of that. So we want to make sure that she's motivated to do that and finding what ticks her to find her own success. But her own success, it feeds back into our own success as well to actually do that. But then we have to work out, what do I need to do in order for that to happen?
One of the things I wanted to just pick up on there, Jason, because one of the things that I've realized that, as we opened up with this, how many people have potentially given up at this stage already, because it's like, well, with the 24th of January, I didn't like do all the things I wanted to do, and all the the chance of me having a great year now is kind of out the window. And a lot of people psychologically, because the world that we're in kind of programs you to think on an annual basis, to think, well, okay, so, well, I'll try again next year, that kind of mentality. And where the reality is, if you look at different cultures and traditions, they have their New Year's at different times to the conventional one. So what is stopping each one of us for choosing when our new year starts again? And that new year can be, at the end of every month, restarted, at the end of every week, whatever period you need to look at that serves you, because you have one life, and you've got to choose when that year starts. So, the new year for you could start tomorrow, and just a reset. Everything else is just, it's like Christmas. I mean, I hope no children are watching, but Santa, come on, Coca-Cola. Okay.
Give it away there again.
But it's, we can create our own success structure, what that looks like for us, and our own environments to really support that culture and that outcome. And then that accountability, you build what that looks like to support you best.
So we looked at intrinsic motivation. I would love for people to ask us some good questions in the chat, because I think this is really important, and it's really, really important for us to articulate this in a way that you would understand, or the audience to understand. But we got the inside, what it is for us, whether it's the endorphin rush, whether it is being on, because some other people, it's like the meaning of success. So the intrinsic is in ourselves. So extrinsic is something slightly different. When we're looking at the two things, we should have both of them, because they're both powerful things of a motivator towards us. But some people are like towards pain, meaning they like to be told off, or they like to be there because that motivates them towards action. Not every single person is that way. That's the stress hormone, cortisol. They like that stress hormone, but too much of it can flip you on the other end. But stress, good stress, is actually good for you, and that could be a motivator in itself. I know when I'm running out, yesterday I was out for a couple of days, and then coming back yesterday, the stress actually hits. I go, my God, I got to do this, that, and the other. I've got enough time in the days, and I need to do this, that, and the other, and I need to plan this, and I need to plan that, and I go, God, have I missed anything out? And that was a stress hormone kicking in, the cortisol, and that was a call to action for me. But also to do in other areas. So start to look quite important for us to do that. It's the punishment from external things, or your boss, or your clients, or something else that works you towards. Because if you're not hitting your deadline, if you say you're going to do something and then you haven't done it, and go, oh dear, and the stress hormone kicks in. And it's probably like me today, that you said the other week, said, oh, I'll leave it to you to sort out. And I went, I didn't see that. So my stress hormone kicked in, and we got this up and running today. So that's a good thing, because it called to action. And then I blame myself. And, that was good in a way. So I just reframed the whole narrative behind that, and I got and did it.
It's interesting because the external sources, and this is one thing to remember, because not everybody reacts and thinks like you do or I do. And this is why it's so important to realize, when we're working with human beings, like, you might look at a situation and go, I'd hate to be in that situation. Look, that's terrible. That, how this person is being put under all this pressure. But for that individual, that may be how they best perform. Like me, I like somebody going, hey, Mac, come on, have you done it? Yeah. Like, it's like that traffic fine thing. It's weird. Like, a traffic fine comes along, you get a parking ticket or whatever it is. It's like these special powers of, hey, if you pay in 14 days, you get half price, or, and you're sitting there thinking about the consequences and, authority and all these. And it's like, why, if somebody didn't come to you in your business and go, hey, by the way, there's going to be this fine if you don't achieve your goal, maybe that is it. Maybe you'll lose your business. And it's that fear of, actually, if I don't achieve this goal, I will lose X, Y, Z. But everybody reacts differently. And this is why, for some of us, a lot of people who start their own businesses, they start their own business as the majority, as a reaction.
Yeah.
It's that one day you've just had enough. You've walked into work, your boss has told you something, and you think, you know what? That's it. No more of that crap.
Yeah.
Then the next day you start a business and you go, what the hell have I done?
Yeah. I want to get back.
But so it really, when we want to make a judgment, it's really important for us to sometimes take a breath and go, is that judgment based on my own feeling or somebody else's? Because it's very easy for us to, that's the natural knee-jerk reaction, is to kind of go, well, that's never going to work. I wouldn't do that. So we have to find our own, whether it's internal or external, accountability. I don't want to say triggers, but tools, things that help you. Because if you need, that's why having a coach for a lot of people is so important, because they're accountable to somebody who they can speak to, and that will hold them accountable to achieve certain things on a regular basis.
And they're also out of the context and the bubble that you're in, or it could be the company that you're in, and external. They can just tell you off. There's no consequence, but that is a call to action. Because that will hopefully inspire you to think. And what we want to do as a coach, what we both do coaching, and that's something that we do extremely well to our clients. But then it's like being that accountable. Also to have an accountability partner or buddy doesn't have to be in your organization, can be outside, to actually keep you accountable for your actions. So if you're part of a pod, or if you're part of a network of businesses, find someone that is relevant to you that can go, hey, Mac, sort it out. You haven't done it. Or Jason, you haven't done it. Or did you hit your numbers this week? Oh, no, I didn't. So what are you going to do, Jason, to hit your numbers? Oh, Christ, yeah, you're right. I need to buck up my ideas. And that's a really good thing to do. And really, and because it gives you a swift kick up the rear to actually help you. Henry, I haven't quite read your message, but I will put it up. Let's upgrade the level of accountability, especially in business and medicine. Did you know, tragically, Americans are... I'm not quite certain what that has to do with this conversation, but thank you very much. Let's swiftly jump on to the next. Negative reinforcements do provide immediate results. Yeah, and that's exactly what we're doing. But they can hardly be intrinsic. But what is the context of that? Remember, intrinsic is internal. Is it the success you're looking for? Is it something else that triggers you? Extrinsic is reward or punishment or compensation. That's a motivator. That's outside of areas. So start to think of everything outside and stuff inside. So inside, outside, inside, outside, inside, outside.
And it's interesting because the whole internal external side of things, there's so many other things that are part of the process. And I was thinking about when I mentioned earlier, when I was looking after a team of 32 people, and when if you get to a stage where you're not sure about the individuals that you are responsible for, and you don't know what holds them accountable or what their reason or why is, at that stage you need to start asking yourself, am I looking after too many people? Do I need to bring somebody else in here? Because and this is why, if you look at teams across the world, typically you're looking at between 8 and 12 people in a team, because that is a kind of a perfect balance of whoever is responsible for them to be able to be close enough to be able to know the individuals. Because the moment you get too distant, then it becomes a generic thing, and you're trying to generically manage or look after people, and that's we're human beings. That's never gonna work. We're not machines.
You hit the nail on the head there. Because if you are managing a team, you have to get to know them. Find out about their background. Find about everything that their family, and hopefully you got to build that circle of trust. And and also give yourself away as well, that area of vulnerability. Once you do that, what would need or like to happen, depending on who they are, is you need to sit down and work out how they tick and what it is about them. And I think that's a really good point to make, and I'm glad you made that, Mac, because it is so true. As a leader in an organization, what are you doing other than taking them out to drinks and all that? I don't think you can do that one-on-one conversation, and it doesn't have to be about work. It's 20 minutes, half an hour, whatever, about them.
Yeah, it's that quality over quantity.
Yeah.
And that's where a lot of organizations unfortunately lose it, because they don't, I've worked in organizations where it's, the pressure and the stress is so high on each one of the individuals that the little things that are breaking the system, as it were, and preventing success are, they're not even part of the equation, because of the fact that it's being seen on a far too generic level. And when you start looking at change management, you start looking at individuals, how organizations are perceived within, as an example. Once you get to the right balance where there is enough of a ratio of people to support, it is so vital to understand these little bits, because when the pressure really hits, those people will do unimaginable things to be able to achieve goals. And I've seen people under, where in another organization, that kind of pressure, they would have all just walked out. But how that brings people together, because there's other people that understand that each one of them will be achieving their goals when everybody else, when the overall goal is achieved. And that unity is magic when it's treated correctly, and the human being is acknowledged. But then you also know, when you've got that close proximity, whether a person is the best fit or not for that organization, or maybe just needs to be in a different department. But that accountability, it comes down to the leader as well as the individual. So both of us are responsible for the outcome, if that makes sense.
No, I haven't got a clue what you're on about, Mike. What are you on about? No, I'm only joking. And part of that is humor, and having humor to ourselves. And that does make complete and utter sense, because you do definitely need that. Someone else has put up there. Here we go. And anybody else, welcome. Right. Okay.
There's a whole conversation going on in the conversation that we're not part of, Jason, so it's all good. Yeah. It's all good.
So I think we've reached our conclusion. I've really enjoyed this conversation, and as well as I know, we could talk about this for the next 3 hours. But we want to leave on the tip of an iceberg here, with a question to you. What type of work do you find challenging but rewarding? And I want to leave that as an iceberg and drop the mic, because it'd be good for people to understand what the question actually means to them, to find out what's going on. Because once you know that, and then it might help you work towards where you need to be going.
Leave it on a little bit of a cliffhanger. They'll love that.
Yes, always leave it on a cliffhanger. Waiting for a lot more. So, Mac, it's been an absolute pleasure us getting back on track this year in 2025. And lots of good things will happen this year. But again, a lot of hard work as well.
As always, that's part of the journey.
Part of the journey. So you've been listening to us, and we've been talking about accountability. And there's a lot more to this to carry on. And we want to be giving you some samples and some golden nuggets here. But there's a little bit more happening. I'm going to leave it as that.
And I believe we're back in, is it 2 weeks? Because you're traveling
2
next
weeks'
week.
time.
Yep.
I'm in England next week. So the week afterwards we'll be back doing this again. So
Awesome
looking forward to that, and we will give you a little bit more notice next time. Hopefully. But we've had a great conversation and lots of good comments in the background. And this be on our YouTube channels as well as still be on the thread in LinkedIn, so you can listen in the comfort of your own home. Us two talking about accountability.
Awesome stuff. Jason, always a pleasure. Have an amazing week to all of you that have been listening. And thank you for joining us. And drop in the comments if you have any questions or anything that stood out to you and you want us to respond. We will be sure to make sure that we do respond.
Yeah, take care.